I knew something was wrong the moment I saw the dress. It was red, deep, blood red, with thin straps and a slit up the thigh. I'd never seen it before. It clung to her body like it was tailored just for her sins. And the kicker? She was wearing it with a smirk that told me she wanted me to ask. So I didn't. I just watched. Her name is Rachel. We've been together 5 years. I met her when I was broke, pushing late-night shifts and building my startup on 3 hours of sleep and stale coffee. She was all charm and giggles back then. Ride or die, she'd say while stealing my hoodie. I thought she was mine. That night, she came home late. Hair curled like she stepped off a runway, lips cherry red, eyes glassy, not from wine, but from adrenaline. The kind you get when you're doing something you know you shouldn't. You look different, I said. She chuckled and kicked off her heels. You wouldn't get it. You never did. That line punched through me harder than any confession would have. And I hadn't even accused her yet. I didn't need to. I'm not an idiot. The late nights. The sudden phone privacy. The weird girl trips that came with no photos. She stopped tagging me in posts. Her parents stopped calling me son. One time, her mom even hung up when I answered Rachel's phone. Still, I wanted to believe. Call it hope. Call it fear. Maybe just plain stupidity. But the dress, that damn dress, was the final nail. She didn't wear it for me. And whoever she wore it for, well, she wanted me to know he existed. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I walked into my home office, turned on the monitors, and watched the security cam feed I'd quietly installed after the second business trip she took to Miami. It felt wrong when I set it up. It felt necessary now. And there it was. Timestamp, 11:32 p.m. Rachel, laughing at the front door. A man, taller than me, cleaner cut, reeking of smugness even in pixels, grabbing her waist from behind. She didn't stop him. She didn't flinch when he kissed her neck. She reached for the door handle and paused, and said it clear as day, voice cocky and cold. Let me go freshen up. He thinks I'm at Danielle's. Won't bother us. The door shut. I sat there, staring at the screen, numb. There's a kind of pain that doesn't shout. It hums. It settles into your bones like a slow infection and makes your skin crawl with betrayal. 5 years. I gave up family dinners to build us a future. Skipped vacations. Turned down funding offers because she didn't want to move states. I bent my whole damn life around her comfort. And she twisted the knife for a guy who probably had his car paid off by mommy and daddy. That night, I didn't confront her. I watched. She came out later, hair messy, cheeks flushed. She tiptoed past my office door and into the kitchen for water like nothing happened. I shut my laptop before she saw the screen. Still awake? She whispered. Couldn't sleep, I answered. She kissed my cheek. It burned. Then she walked upstairs and disappeared into the bedroom we built together from scratched-up furniture and late-night IKEA runs. I sat in that chair for another hour. Then I emailed my lawyer. 3 days later, she was served. Her confusion was priceless. What the hell is this? She hissed, waving the papers like they were a joke. Freedom, I said. From lies, lipstick, and low standards. She stormed out, straight to her parents. They were thrilled. Turned out, her new man was someone they actually liked. Wealthy. Polished. Perfect on paper. And I? I was just the startup guy. The temporary chapter. Fine. Let them think that. 3 years passed. I kept my mouth shut. I built what she thought was just a pipe dream into a monster of a company. Multiple offices. Forbes write-up. New suits, sharper jawline, better silence. And now? Now she watches. From afar. From fake accounts and burner texts. I know because I see the view count spikes on nights I post photos with Lauren, the woman who actually chose me, not my potential. Rachel thought she upgraded. But it turns out, I was the empire. And she was just the detour. It was the small things that gave her away at first. You know how people say it's the lipstick on the collar or the mysterious hotel receipt in the jacket? No, it's more subtle than that. It's the way she stopped asking how my day was. The way she started locking her phone like it held national secrets. The way she flinched when I reached for her hand, like my touch was a burden. I told myself she was tired. Maybe stressed. I convinced myself we were just in a rough patch. But patches don't last 6 months. And I knew in my gut, deep down, that something was off. It wasn't until I found the Uber receipt that everything started to unravel. She left it in the trash. Sloppy. The pickup address was our house. The drop-off? A hotel 2 blocks from her office. Middle of the day. No business meeting. No conference. No explanation. I didn't say anything right away. I just took a picture of it. My hands were trembling, but my face stayed calm. I'd learned to wear masks long before she started playing dress-up behind my back. A few days later, I saw the same name again. In her phone, Brent W. No emoji. No last name. Just clean and cold. I waited until she was in the shower and used her fingerprint to unlock her phone. She didn't even know I still had it saved. I scrolled fast. I didn't want to see more than I had to, but curiosity has a cruel appetite. There it was. A text thread that read like a romance novel written by two narcissists. Can't stop thinking about last time. You bring out the wild in me. He's clueless. It's almost fun at this point. That one hit hardest. Clueless. That's what I was to her. A background character in her drama. The guy who paid the bills and asked too many questions. I snapped a few photos. Sent them to my email. Then I locked her phone and left it exactly where I found it. Later that night, I looked at her across the dinner table and wondered how someone I once loved this deeply could become so unfamiliar. She was laughing at some video on her phone, her shoulders bouncing, completely detached from the storm brewing inside me. I excused myself, went to the guest room, and sat there in the dark. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just planned. The worst part wasn't even the betrayal. It was the performance. The way she kissed me goodbye before work. The way she said, "I love you" on autopilot. The way she let me carry the weight of this relationship while she tossed it overboard to go play house with a polished stranger. She had no idea the clock was ticking. But I wasn't going to explode. That's what she expected. A fight. A dramatic confrontation. Tears. Maybe a slap. Something she could twist into victimhood. No. I wanted her to feel what she made me feel: quiet, suffocating exposure. So I waited. And when I had everything I needed, I turned off the cameras, deleted the backup footage, and called my lawyer again. We moved to the next step. She walked into the kitchen like nothing was wrong. Like she hadn't been sneaking around with a man who used hair gel and daddy's money to pretend he was interesting. I was leaning against the counter, holding my phone, not even trying to hide it this time. "Hey," she said, tossing her purse on the table. "You didn't cook?" "No," I replied. Calm. Too calm. She raised an eyebrow, still scrolling through her notifications. "You okay?" I turned the screen toward her. Her smile dropped. "What's this?" she asked. "You tell me." Her fingers hesitated before reaching for the phone. She tried to act confused, like she didn't recognize the texts. Like she hadn't written, "You make me feel alive." He never did. Like she hadn't planned another meetup next Friday while I was supposed to be at a conference. That's out of context," she stammered. I almost laughed. Which part? The hotel receipts? The midnight messages? Or the part where you call me clueless while he's undressing you? Her eyes darted around the room, looking for an escape. She wasn't used to being cornered. She liked control. This was new territory for her, being caught without a script. "You've been spying on me," she finally said, trying to flip it. I smiled. "That's what you're going with? After everything?" Rachel crossed her arms and leaned back like she was the one hurt. "We've been off for a while. You know that. You've been so obsessed with your startup. Maybe if you gave me attention." "There it is," I interrupted. "The classic, 'it's your fault I cheated' excuse." "I didn't say that. You didn't have to." Silence. She was waiting for me to raise my voice. Maybe to throw something. That would make it easier for her to paint me as the bad guy. But I wasn't giving her the drama she fed on. I wanted her to remember this moment for the rest of her life, not for its noise, but for its precision. "I've already spoken to my attorney," I said. "You'll get the paperwork tomorrow." Her mouth dropped. "You're divorcing me? Over this?" I tilted my head. "Over this? Rachel, this isn't a one-night mistake. This is months. Maybe a year. You built another life behind my back while sleeping in my bed." She scoffed. "You're being dramatic. You're being pathetic." Her eyes burned with something between hatred and disbelief. She never thought I'd walk away. She thought I was too soft. Too invested. She thought I'd need her. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "I already regret everything after year one." She grabbed her purse, opened her mouth like she was about to throw some venom, but then closed it again and walked out. No apology. No remorse. Just ego and heels clicking against the tile. I stood there alone, watching the door she slammed, letting the silence remind me of how loud her lies had been. And then I breathed. For the first time in months, I breathed. When the door shut behind her, it didn't echo. It just ended. Like the closing of a chapter one hadn't realized I'd already outgrown. Still, I stood there in the kitchen for a few more seconds, gripping the edge of the counter, waiting for the numbness to crack into something real. Rage, grief, anything. But nothing came. That's what shocked me most. No tears. No yelling. Just this, hollow calm. The kind that only follows total devastation. I sat down on the floor, back against the cabinets, and looked around. Every inch of this house had some trace of her. From the mug she picked out on that weekend trip to Portland, to the ridiculous throw pillows she insisted on, saying they tied the room together. I used to think they made the space feel warmer. Now they just looked like props in a staged lie. I started replaying everything. Every fight she dismissed with a laugh. Every moment I swallowed my frustration. Every night she rolled away from me in bed like I was a stranger in my own home. And I hated it. Not because she betrayed me, but because I let her. I let it drag on. I gave her time, space, trust, everything she needed to sharpen the knife. There was a moment, maybe 6 months ago, when I should have known. We were at dinner, and I mentioned our 5-year anniversary coming up. She gave this fake smile, the kind that doesn't even reach the eyes, and said, "Can we not do something big this year? I'm just tired." I thought it was work stress. Now I know it was just disinterest. She had already checked out. I opened a bottle of scotch that had been sitting in the cabinet since Christmas. Poured a glass. Sat in silence. I didn't toast. I didn't sulk. I just let the burn of the drink remind me that I was still alive. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. I couldn't. The thought of lying where she'd rehearsed her lies felt repulsive. I crashed on the couch, using my hoodie as a pillow. Woke up with a sore back and a mind spinning with quiet fury. The next morning, I started boxing up her things. One drawer at a time. Every picture frame. Every cardigan. Every trace of the woman I thought I loved. I didn't break anything. Didn't toss it out the window like some cliché movie scene. I just packed it, sealed it, and placed it by the front door. She came to pick it up 2 days later. Didn't even knock. Just grabbed the boxes, head high like she still had the upper hand. She didn't say a word. And I didn't offer one. Because in that silence, I realized something. She didn't deserve a goodbye. Not after all she'd taken from me. What she deserved was to watch me rise without her. And I planned to give her exactly that. The day after she picked up her things, I deleted her contact. Blocked her number. Unfollowed, unfriended, erased. Not out of spite, out of survival. I knew if I left any door open, even a window cracked, she'd slither back in the moment things got hard with her new fantasy man. And I wasn't going to be anyone's fallback. I filed the divorce papers myself. No drama. No courtroom showdown. Just black ink on white paper and a quiet goodbye to 5 wasted years. My lawyer was shocked at how smoothly I wanted it all to go. "You're sure you don't want to go after anything?" he asked. "You built this business while married. Half of it is." "No," I interrupted. Let her take nothing and still lose everything. Because that was the beauty of it. She didn't understand what she'd walked away from. She thought I was just a startup guy, a stepping stone. What she didn't know was that while she was busy playing house with her polished new toy, my company had landed a 7-figure deal with a global client. I went from pitching in coffee shops to running meetings on the 20th floor of a high-rise. While she was taking mirror selfies in hotel rooms, I was building an empire. I made a decision. No more wasting time. No more energy on people who saw me as almost enough. I started showing up for myself. The gym replaced the couch. Strategy sessions replaced pity. And when I met Lauren, I didn't compare her to Rachel. I didn't need to. Lauren was her own category, elegant, sharp, and real. Lauren didn't care about my money. She cared about my mind. She listened when I spoke, not just waited for her turn. She showed up on time, told the truth even when it hurt, and never made me feel like I had to compete for her loyalty. And the best part? She chose me. Not what I had. Not who I could become. Me. It felt foreign at first, to be genuinely appreciated. I kept waiting for the red flags, the manipulation, the power games. But none came. And slowly, I started to trust again, not just her, but myself. One night, a year after the divorce was finalized, I got a message request from an unfamiliar account. No name. Just, "I made a mistake." Blocked. I didn't even hesitate. Because that's the thing about rebuilding. Once you've seen yourself rise from the ashes, the smoke doesn't scare you anymore. You remember what it's like to suffocate. And you never let it happen again. She traded potential for pretense. I traded her shadow for someone who walks beside me. And I've never looked back. Success doesn't always shout. Sometimes, it moves quietly, steadily, until the world realizes you've outgrown the space they tried to trap you in. That's what happened with me. It started with one good quarter, then two, then a breakthrough. What used to be a late-night hustle with cheap pizza and whiteboards turned into boardrooms, polished suits, and international deals. My startup, once a running joke at Rachel's family dinners, became one of the fastest-growing firms in the sector. They used to laugh behind my back. Now their sons send me resumes. But it wasn't about revenge. Not really. It was about proving something to the only person who mattered, me. You spend years being told you're not enough, and you start to believe it. You question your instincts. You dull your edge. You trade fire for comfort. That's what she did to me. Slowly. Over time. Until I didn't even recognize my own reflection. But after she left, I saw him again. The version of me that used to dream big. The guy who didn't ask for permission. The guy who never begged for love. I rebuilt everything. Rewired my schedule. Woke up at 5 a.m., trained like an animal, ate clean, read every book I could get my hands on. I stopped looking for closure from someone who never had the decency to offer it. Instead, I closed the chapter myself with success. The first time I saw Rachel again was 2 years later. It wasn't planned. I was speaking at a tech summit in San Diego. Finished my keynote, walked off stage to applause, and there she was in the back of the crowd. Her hair shorter, her face thinner. Eyes locked on me like I was a ghost from a life she buried too soon. I didn't flinch. She tried to approach after the panel. I saw her move through the crowd, that familiar sway in her hips, like seduction was a language she thought still worked on me. But before she could reach me, Lauren stepped to my side. Rachel stopped mid-step, and I swear, I saw it in her eyes. That moment of clarity. That brutal realization that she had downgraded her soul for a pretty cage. Lauren smiled, graceful but firm. Is that someone you know? Just a lesson I've already learned, I replied. Rachel turned and walked away. She didn't speak a word. Didn't need to. Because in that moment, silence said it all. I didn't gloat. I didn't post cryptic captions or throw shade. I just kept building. Because my story isn't about her. It's about who I became after her. She thought she left me broken. But I wasn't broken. I was reborn. It was a late Friday night when the message came through. A burner account. No profile picture. No name. Just a simple, desperate sentence. Do you ever think about us? I stared at it for a second. Then another. My first instinct was to delete it. But something stopped me, not out of longing, but out of clarity. She wasn't asking out of love. She was asking because the fantasy she chased had finally cracked. That's the thing about people like Rachel. They don't miss you. They miss what you gave them, security, admiration, devotion. They miss being adored without having to earn it. I didn't reply. I scrolled through her page. She'd unblocked me long ago. And there it was. Photos that tried too hard. Captions that screamed emptiness. The perfect guy her parents approved of? Gone. No ring. No house. No empire. Just Rachel, reaching for a version of me that no longer existed. What would I even say? That I forgave her? I didn't. Not because I held a grudge, but because forgiveness implies she matters. And she didn't. Not anymore. Lauren walked into the room just then, wearing one of my hoodies, hair messy from the rain, holding 2 mugs of tea. She saw the look on my face before I even said a word. Rachel, she asked calmly. I nodded. Want to talk about it? I shook my head. There's nothing left to say. And that was the truth. Because Lauren wasn't a rebound. She wasn't a trophy. She was a mirror that showed me what healthy love looked like. She never made me feel small to feel big. She never asked me to shrink so she could shine. She just chose me, every day. And with that kind of woman in my life, there was no room left for ghosts. Later that week, I went back to the place Rachel and I once considered ours, a little bar downtown where we used to dream big and spend late nights laughing. I sat alone, ordered an old favorite, and looked around. It didn't feel nostalgic. It felt like a museum exhibit, something you glance at, then walk away from. As I stepped out, a man bumped into me on the sidewalk. Mid-30s. Sharp suit. Polished smile. Hey, aren't you the founder of RiseCore? I nodded. My ex used to talk about you like you were nothing, he said. Funny how things turn out. I smiled, extended my hand. Yeah, funny. He walked off. And I stood there, under the city lights, thinking not about Rachel, but about the man I'd become. Not in spite of her betrayal, but because of it. Her leaving didn't break me. It revealed me. It's strange how life has a way of lining up exactly as it should once you let go of everything forcing you to crawl. For the longest time, I thought I needed Rachel to build the future I wanted. Turns out, I needed her betrayal to unlock the part of me I'd buried, under compromise, under comfort, under blind loyalty. These days, I don't flinch at her name. I don't dream about what we used to be. I don't waste my time wondering what would have happened if she'd stayed. She didn't belong in the version of my life I was destined for. And I finally see that clearly. The truth is, she did me a favor. She freed me from a cage I didn't know I was in. It wasn't just her lies or her disloyalty, it was how small she made me feel for dreaming big, for believing in things she didn't understand, for wanting to build more than just a pretty photo for social media. She wasn't capable of walking beside a man who was still growing. She needed someone fully formed, fully decorated, someone she could show off like a handbag and keep under control. And when I refused to shrink, she left. And thank God she did. Because now I stand tall in rooms she'll never be invited into. I laugh in circles where her name means nothing. I wake up next to someone who sees me, not someone who resents my ambition. And most importantly, I trust myself again. I trust the voice that told me something was wrong. I trust the instinct that said, don't fight for someone who wouldn't even bleed for you. I trust the silence that followed her exit, because in that silence, I found everything. My strength, my value, my clarity. After 5 long years, she ditched me for the perfect guy her parents approved of. Now, 3 years later, she watches from the shadows while I rise with a booming empire, and a woman who chose me without needing to be convinced. She watches from afar. I know she does. People like her always do. They check in, hoping for signs of collapse, of regret. But all she finds is momentum, growth, peace. There's nothing left of the man she left, because that man no longer exists. If I could go back and give one piece of advice to myself on the day I found those messages, it'd be this. You're not being destroyed. You're being redirected. To any man reading this, who's sitting in the wreckage of betrayal, who feels like the world just caved in. Let it fall. Let it all burn. Because when you rebuild from the ashes, you'll do it with fire in your eyes, steel in your spine, and a heart that knows its worth. And no one, not even the prettiest liar, can ever take that from you again.